What's up YouTube, this is Yepsar Goblin here. Today I got a video for you guys on the Shiranui, the unknown fire, as the Japanese would translate. It's a new archetype coming out in Breakers of Shadows in the OCG, so the TCG won't have it for quite a while. But I found it interesting enough to take a look, so I thought I'd make a video about it to show you guys how to play, and this is hopefully the first in a series of videos on the Shiranui, much like I did with the Necros a while ago. So I'm hoping you guys like this. It looks pretty fun. Truthfully, before this video was made, I have not looked at any of the cards at all. I haven't played one game with this. I haven't made a deck of it yet because I want to work through it with you guys. I want this to be like a kind of a community project. I work on, perfecting the deck. I'll post some dual videos and we can kind of work through it together. So I hope that's something you guys want to see. Even if you don't want to participate, it might be interesting for you to stick around and watch. So let's just get right into the deck. We only have a couple monsters for the deck so far, and one trap and two synchros. But in general, they all seem to follow these rules. They are all fire attribute zombie types with 0 defense. It's pretty straightforward, and main focus of the deck appears to be built around synchro summoning and banishing cards in various ways. A lot of them have effects when they're banished, and a lot of them have effects that banish other Shiranuis from the graveyard, from the hand, from the deck, stuff like that. So, first card we have in the deck is actually a pretty good one. This is Chief Priest of the Shiranui. Shiranui. The effect reads, when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon any Shiranui from your hand or graveyard except the Chief Priest, but you banish it when it leaves the field, which seems like a drawback, but in some cases actually not. If this card is banished, you can target any face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it, and you can only use that effect once per turn. So you have a hard once per turn on the destruction effect, which is a little annoying, but it's easy to work with that. It's not too detrimental. The 1500 attack is really not that bad, and this card is an instant synchro Rixies, so it's got a lot of use. I feel like this is going to be one of the best cards in the deck. The drawback is that it requires a normal summon, but it has a powerful effect, so I think I can get over that. Next we have another level 4 monster, the Swordsmith of the Shiranui. This is a level 4 zombie. It's got 1000 attack, which is actually pretty weak and not good at all, but it's got a good effect. So it says if this card on the field is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can add any Shiranui card, note card not monster, from your deck to your hand except another Swordsmith. You can only use that effect once per turn. So hard once per turn on the search effect, and if it's banished by any means, for the rest of that turn, zombie types you have cannot be destroyed by battle. I find it interesting that the banish effect is optional, as if you wanted to kill your zombies. So I see weird plays happening with that, but overall I don't think this card is going to be used for the banish effect. I think the search effect is just far more useful. So we just have to figure out how we're actually going to get a synchro summon now, so let's move on to the tuner. This is U2 Shiranui. Is the only tuner the deck has right now. It is level 2, and its effect is pretty interesting. I'll read it to you. If it's in your graveyard, except the turn sent to the graveyard, you can target any non-tuner zombie in your grave, banish both of them, and special summon a zombie type synchro from your extra deck whose levels equal the total levels of the banished monsters. And of course, that is a hard once per turn effect. So I don't like the fact that it's once per turn, and I don't like the fact that you have to wait a turn before you can actually synchro with it from the grave. And let me clarify, that's not actually synchro summoning from the grave. The monster you bring out will not have been properly synchro summoned, so should it hit the graveyard, then it won't be able to come back as it wasn't summoned properly. Similar to bringing out Stardust Dragon on a Starlight Road. If you tribute to negate the effect, Stardust won't come back because it was special summoned by not threat mechanics. The card reminds me a lot of Blackwing Vayu, the Emblem of Honor, which is one of my favorite cards of all time. It does have one definite difference from Vayu though, and that's that with Shiranui, the monster you bring out does not have its effect negated, which is actually really cool, because you can bring out a bunch of good level 6 zombies. Just looking at just the Shiranuis for now, there's a bunch of good level 6 zombies. So, I mean, you got Doom Kaiser, you got Hades, and you have the Archfiend Skull. I cannot remember that card's name. but you know what I'm talking about, the level 6 Summon Skull Zombie Synchro. It's actually kind of impossible to get out by normal means because it's level 6 but needs Plague Spreader and 2 non-tuner zombies, so you gotta have 3 level 2s in the field, and I think the only way you can really do that is with Pain Painter. I mean, you can do it other ways, but the only realistic way of doing it is Pain Painter. So, I mean, that's pretty cool that you can actually make use of that card finally, because it's actually not a bad card at all. So then we have the other tuner, which is U2 Shiranui. It's basically exactly the same as the other one. It's got all the same effects, except this one doesn't accidentally and on purpose put its album on your iPhone when you don't want it. Yeah, this one's just kind of an asshole. Next we have our Synchro, which I'm going to pronounce once and not again. Katangami Shiranui. Henceforth will be referred to as the level 6 guy. So the way you're going to make this guy most often is with U2 and Swordsmith or Priest. And the effect says, once per turn during either player's turn, you can target one of your banished zombies, shuffle it in the deck. If you do, change all monsters your opponent controls attack lower than or equal to that monster's to defense position. So alright, if you have a banished Priest, you can shuffle that right back into the deck, recycling it, and then change any monster your opponent has with a lower attack than that to defense. So I'm not really sure how useful that is, but what's interesting is that you don't have to have your opponent have a monster for you to use this effect. If your opponent has nothing on board, you can just target the zombie, or target one of your banished zombies and shuffle it back, and then if your opponent doesn't have any monsters, the second part doesn't happen just because of the conjunction used there. Now, OCG doesn't have problem-solving card text like we have in the TCG, but if we're going to assume that this is the way it's going to be worded and the way all the punctuation is going to be used, then I'm going to operate off of that. I did take the text from the Wikia, which I know is not an official source, but we're going to work with that from now on. And then the second effect is, if this card is banished, you can target any monster your opponent controls, and it loses 500 attack. And that is permanent. And this one has a once per turn restriction on summoning it. You can only special summon the level 6 guy once per turn. So you can't synchro summon it and then use a Book of Life or something, which is kind of annoying, but all really it does is stop you from making rank 6 exceeds plays, and it slows you down just a little bit. The 2500 attack is pretty good, especially considering we can make it just out of cards in our graveyard. So I think this guy is pretty good all around. We do have one other synchro, which I will also only pronounce once. It is Ikusagami Shiranui, also known as the level 8 guy. If he is special summoned, you can banish any zombie from your grave, and it gains attack equal to that monster's original attack until the end of the turn. So at best, that's 5500 attack, plus when it's banished, it's going to drop your opponent's monster 500. So you're basically putting 6,000 on board just by synchro summoning one monster. Second effect, if this card in the field is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target any of your banished zombies with 0 defense and return it to the grave for reuse. And of course, you can only special summon this guy once a turn. So that first effect is actually really good. That's a lot of damage you can put on board at once, and if your opponent has no defense or left something sitting out in attack position, you can put the game within ending range really, really quickly. It does recycle all your Shiranuis, putting them back in the graveyard, so that can get your U2 back in the grave. So that's pretty good. And 3000 attack for any level 8 is pretty good, really. And note that both of the synchros don't require any Shiranui cards, just Zombie Tuner and Zombie Non-Tuner. Alright, we have one more card left in the deck, and if you're not sold on the deck yet, you will be now. We have Shiranui style Swallow Sword. This is a trap card. Tribute one zombie type monster, then target 2 cards in the field, destroy them, then banish any Shiranui monster from your deck. You can only activate one of those per turn. So my first thought when I read this card was, wow, this card is freaking awesome. You're tributing any zombie, so any kind of off-theme support you're playing counts 2. Blowing up 2 cards in the field, so you're automatically going even at the very least, and higher if they MST'd the sword or they were going to kill the monster anyway. And then you get to banish a Shiranui from your deck. So you're accelerating your game state. If you banish the priest, you're also popping another face-up card on the field. This card is like Icarus Attack, but it also moves your game state forward. And should be noted that based on the current conjunctions, this card does not even require you to have a Shiranui card in your deck to resolve. So potentially you could play this card in a pure zombie deck and just have Icarus attacks, which is actually kind of frightening. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, but in this deck especially, it's fantastic. Trade 2 cards for 2 cards, and then a 3rd card if you banish the priest, and then your priest is where you can get to it. This is pretty amazing. I like this a lot. Alright, well that's all we got for this video, because that's all the 6 cards we have. So thank you guys so much for watching. Part 2 will be coming soon. I think in the next part I'm going to go on DevPro and just record me building the deck from scratch. At least the first version of it. If you're not already, please do subscribe to my channel. I hope you like the content I have on there. And so definitely subscribe if you want to see more of this series, because I think we can do a lot of videos on this. And if you do want updates whenever I post a video, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. It's at UpstartGoblin. Yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Love the support, and we'll see you later.